Hello everyone. Today we're going to look into the temptation of the devil afflicted on the divine. Right? So now Jesus has been in the desert praying for 40 days and 40 nights and he's hungry. So the devil comes along and he asks Jesus, "You know what? Why don't you turn these stones into bread?" And Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but everything that comes out of the mouth of God." Right? Because it is not enough that we only live by one principle or one value. There are so many things that we can develop about ourselves because human beings are multi-dimensional human beings. There are so many dimensions across which we can expand ourselves, right? So it's not enough that we only develop one skill. Let's say communication. It's not enough. You got to dress well. You've got to work out so that you can maintain your physical health. You have to upskill yourself in different areas of your life so that you can become a full human being. So it is not enough that you only eat and that's enough, because then there is no excitement to life, and that is very difficult to live like that. So but to live by everything that comes out of the word of but to live according to everything that comes out of the mouth of God. And that is a very interesting notion, because everything that comes out from the mouth of God is creation. Because in the book of Genesis, God created everything through the word, right? So everything that we create is just not limited to bread or what we eat. There are so many things that we can do to make our lives much more better. So it's not, so we shouldn't limit ourselves to whatever we have right now. And ambition is it viewed as something that was negative for the longest time. I thought it was negative, but apparently it isn't. So ambition is a very, very powerful thing, so that you can actually achieve for more and create more. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Okay. So now the second temptation was Jesus was asked to jump off from the top of the temple. And that is a very interesting thing for the devil to ask Jesus to do, because the temple, if it is supposed to, because the temple is supposedly created to worship the highest, the divine, the God, right? But then if Jesus, being the Son of God, and that's what the people around him believed, so if Jesus jumped and the devil was hoping that that Jesus would die, that would actually serve as a basis for the believers to turn into non-believers, right? Because then that would actually sub- act as a basis for the oncoming generations to not turn to God, because that would establish that God is not real. But even though the devil would not, the devil would obviously would have been proven wrong, but it is a very, very evil thing for him to ask for Jesus to do that. Okay, so now the devil said, okay, the third temptation was that the devil said to Jesus, "You know what? Why don't you bow in front of me and I will give you everything that is in front of you?" So basically, all the kingdoms of the earth. That's what the devil offered Jesus. But Jesus said, but then the only thing that the devil wanted in return was to was that the Jesus should bow in front of the devil. But then Jesus said, "You shall not worship in any other entity than your God, your Lord." Right? It is like, Dr. Jordan Peterson said, "Whatever you hold the highest in your life is your God." So if we compromise the highest God for the lower gods, let's say those lower gods would be the things that are tempting you, which are not particularly beneficial to your being in the longest time frame, in the long term. So if we compromise our values and principles for the lesser gods, then that would actually land us up in trouble, because every time we look back into our lives, there is always something that we took too quickly. Before the fruit was ripened, we took it off the tree, we picked it off the tree and ate it, but it wasn't sweet enough, right? So you could take the shortcut, and that's why they say, people who gamble, they win the money, but then what happens is when they win the money, they spend it as fast as they can, because they didn't actually put in the real effort to get that money. It was based on their luck. So it didn't build the character in them to actually earn that money. So basically, if it wasn't gamble, they couldn't earn that kind of money, right? in that period of time, because gambling is like, you go in one night, you go to casinos and you can make thousands of dollars, right, if you're lucky. But then that doesn't make you the man that is capable of keeping that money with them. All right. So, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This is very interesting, because why does it say that blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven? Because apparently only the people who are high in spirit should enter the kingdom of heaven, right? I'd say that it is a call to the potential that is inherent in each human being, right? Because if you see, a famous example is David Goggins. David Goggins, he ran 205 miles in kilometers. That's more than 300 kilometers, man. That's too much, right? He ran 300 kilometers, and more than that, I think 350 kilometers or so, as far as I understand. I don't know the metric, but it's around that range, between 300 to 400 kilometers. He ran that distance, and he was really fat till he was around 25 to 26. But then he became one of the toughest men to ever walk on the planet Earth, right? So there is so much potential in you that people just live and die. They don't really utilize and realize their full potential that can benefit them. And the best part about bringing out your potential is that it is not only that you are benefited, because apparently if you bring out your potential, it's like a ripple. If you throw a stone into the middle of a still pond, there would be ripple that spreads across the pond, right? And why is that? Is because, so just like that, when you bring out your full potential, when you realize your full potential, the kind of person that you can become only if you put in the effort, that actually ripples towards the society, towards the people around you. Because and and that's good, right? So is it, so it won't be too far fetched to say that it is selfish to not bring out your potential, because then probably the world is a better place, because what you had to offer is not given to the world, because the world was waiting for you. They didn't know that they were waiting for you, and you didn't even know that the world was waiting for you to unleash your potential. But a lot of people just live and die, and that's actually a waste of a lot of potential that was never realized. Because then they say, right, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The meek means the weak person. Now, why a weak person? Why would a weak person would inherit the earth? Because how can they inherit the earth, and why would they be blessed? Again, it's a call out to your potential. You don't have to be weak. Every human being has the spirit in them, the indomitable human spirit that actually helps them confront any problem that is in front of them. I talk with people, and I like to say this thing, that the human spirit is something that goes beyond anything that we can ever comprehend in our life, because no way the human civilization made it this far. Throughout all the diseases, plagues and wars, we made it this far, right? And now we are in a comfortable home surrounded by brick walls. There are no animals attacking us. There is food on the table. We got comfortable clothes to wear. There are medicines that we have manufactured to protect the human civilization from being extinct. So it's a pretty good position, right? So the meek shall inherit the earth. It means the people who don't bring out the potential, if they brought out the potential, they are capable of conquering any problem that is an impediment to them. And then again, I'd say that in the process of taking down the impediments in front of you is the very same thing that brings out the best in you. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew chapter 5 verse 14. That's very interesting, because it is a good goal to become a city that is on the hill. Now, why is it on the hill? Because if a lighthouse, the higher it is, the farther the light reaches around its radius. So the higher the hill, the further the light goes. Now, what is light? Light is actually wisdom. So you can only truly climb the hill if you gain more and more wisdom. Now, what does light do? It gets rid of the darkness. The darkness would be the ignorance. So, if you are light on the hill, so you're so high and mighty and full of knowledge and wisdom, you can spread that around you, right? So, there's so much darkness around people. There is so much darkness around you. There's so much ignorance. You could be the light. You could be the person who spreads that light and gets rid of the darkness and spreads the wisdom all around them, so that the darkness recedes and recedes and recedes as best as you can. Reconcile with your brother and then offer gifts to God. So this is what Jesus said, right? So Jesus said, reconcile with your brother and then offer gifts to God. People people have problems in their life that are not really small. They are like very big problems according to them. So it is easy to actually run away from them, you know because I even every I've done that. Every one of us has done that and still do to some extent, right? So what is the message there? Why we should reconcile with our brother and then offer gifts to God? It is because before we go out into the world trying to protect others, we should be able to take care of ourselves, right? Because trumpeting virtue is easier than getting your life together. That's so easy, right? Because it's much more easier to not look at the demons in your own life and to look onto others' life and trying to go and help them. But then when you fall back into your life, there are still demons, and then the demons have grown bigger and stronger, probably big enough to take you down. But then again, I'd say the human spirit still can take down those demons, but it takes a lot of you in some sense to get rid of those demons at that point. So it is easier to get rid of the demons if they're small and weak enough, right? At that time would be a good time to get rid of the things that are actually stopping your growth. So how about this? Let me know how is this for a plan? How about getting your life together as much as you can, right? Okay, now how do you know that your life is getting together and how is it getting better? Well, you can just look around, and if you see the way the people are responding towards you, and if you look at your own life and you see that, what, my life is better now, my family's life is better now, my friends' life are better now, I've got enough people around me, I've got some authority because I've actually, through the pain and suffering that I went through, I've established authority, I've gained the authority, I've earned respect. Now people will listen to me, and now I can go help others. Now it doesn't mean that you shouldn't help when you shouldn't. Now it doesn't mean that you shouldn't help other people when you are putting your life together. This just means that just don't ignore the things that are impediments in your life. Just don't completely ignore them. Keep working on yourself and start helping others too. Just don't stop what you're working at. Don't ignore the problems in your life, because once you try to solve the other guy's problem and then you come back to your life, probably the demons, like I said, would have grown bigger and they'll take you down. It's not a good place to be, right? And it's difficult to climb out of the hell that the demons take you or drag you into. So keep working on yourself, keep working on your problems, try to get rid of them. And if you can, and most of the people can, try to help others too at the same time. There's nothing else for us to do for the next, as long as we live on this earth, right? If your right eye or right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away, since it is better to lose them instead of your whole body being thrown into hell. What does this mean? What do you because what does this verse mean in the Bible? It says that you should cut off your right hand and your right eye and and throw them into hell, because it is better for those parts of the body to go into hell rather than your whole body. There are particularly, there are parts of you that are not actually aiming up. So let's say if you're living by a principle that is not actually beneficial to you, those can, it can corrupt your whole being, right? So what you can do as a human being, as a person, as a divine being. Now I say that human beings are divine too because we were made in the image of God. And in during Genesis, when eve ate Eve and Adam ate the apple from the tree of knowledge, God did mention that we are half as godly as God himself. So we are divine to a lot of extent. Human beings are divine to a lot of extent, right? Because we've been blessed with the rational mind to make the best decisions, because that's what the hope is, that with the rational mind that we have, we'll make the best decisions. So we should use that ability to get rid of the parts that are actually stopping us, that are impediments to our own growth. We have certain habits which will, let's say if we got a smoker, and if he does everything else right, and if he gets to the pinnacle of success, and if he dies from lung cancer, everything that he did is wasted, because then he dies of cancer. So just like that, it is better to get rid of the parts of you that are not aiming up. You can use the parts of you that are actually aiming up, group them, make a team, and attack the part of you that is not aiming up. Then you're not alone, right? It's a teamwork there. So Jesus also mentions that just say yes or no, do not take an oath by the heavens or by the earth, since the heaven and the earth belong to God. That's very interesting too, because neither the heaven nor earth was made by human beings. All we have is our yes and no. All we have is our word. People like to make promises that a lot of us don't really go look through it. We don't go through it. We don't get through our promise, right? So Jesus said, just say yes or no. That is good enough. Okay, now there's a benefit to that, saying just saying yes or no and not making any promises. Now, why is that? Because once you say that my word is iron willed, if I say yes, I'm gonna do it. Let's say if you say that I'm gonna do 500 push-ups, just do 500 push-ups. Okay, now what is the benefit to that? Because you are stacking up evidence that your word means a lot. Because then it is, and then again, it is easier for people to believe what you say. It's not that okay, it's like they know that this person, if I say something, if I say yes to something, then I do it. So how that is playing out for me is that it is easier for people to trust me, even if, no matter who they are. So if they know me, if I say yes or if I say no, they know that I mean it. It is because you pull through that promise. You pull through the action that you said yes or no to. Let's say when I said that I'm gonna run 30 kilometers without water, I did it. So, and it is not perfect, right? Not everyone is perfect. So as much as you can, the aim would be to make, to stack up as much as evidence as you can, so that you can provide as an evidence that your word means what it means. So you can say yes sir. So the benefit is, you can say yes sir no to people, and it is easier for them to believe you, and you can act, then also you can actually believe yourself. You can actually trust yourself. So your yes or no becomes akin to, that is, so your yes or no becomes akin to something that is better than a promise. It is something that you said and you pull through it, and it establishes a very strong foundation for you to operate on, because then you can trust yourself, because you know that if you say something yes to, you will do it. So it means that if you say yes to something, you will do it, you will look it through. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. For if you love for if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? Matthew chapter 5, verse 46. So let's go with the first verse. It says, and if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. What does this mean? It means that provide more value than you are paid for. That is how the markets function, right? Anything is as expensive as you can provide the value for it. Let's say if a product that is worth $20 is providing the same value as compared to a product that is $10, then the $20 one, people are going to choose the one that is for $10 worth, because they're getting double the value in half the price, right? Because it is like it is a call to giving people more than you are asked of, and it works in offices too, right? If they keep an eye out, they'd see that who are actually working. So if someone asks something of you, give them more, as much as you can, right? And in the pursuit of this, when you can't give more, right, and if you are a generous person, the first thing that comes to your mind, okay, how can I give more? So you become more generous, and start of thinking ways to find ways to be more generous, because you can only give as deep as your pockets go, right? And I'm not talking about just money, I'm talking about the mental pocket, the emotional pocket. You can only give as much as deep as the pockets go. So in that process, you'll find ways, you'll start developing yourself into a better human being who can be more and more and more generous, right? So giving more doesn't mean that you're going to end up with less. It means that it will open up a challenge for you to pursue, which will make you a better person. It's very interesting. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? Matthew chapter 5, verse 46. So this is a very interesting verse. It means that, okay, you know what? If you only love those people who love you, then what is the point? Then you have no reward. Now, why does it say no reward? Let's say, I'm sure that most of us have this feeling. If we are able to convert a person who does not like you particularly into a person who likes you, it is much more rewarding than receiving the love from the person who already loves you, right? Now, how do we do that? How do we make the person like us? How about this? How about this? As far as I see, because I worked in customer service, some people can be particularly rude. So what I used to do is maintain my tonality, right? Talk to them in a very loving way, because in a very loving way. So I try to feel the love in my heart as far as I can manage, because I'm not a perfect person, and there can be instances where I could lose my cool, but the general rule of thumb would be to be as polite as we can, right? And obviously there are situations we need to stand up for ourselves, that goes without saying, and it's a very good art to master, to stand up for yourself. Definitely a lot of people need to do that. So as best as we can manage, it is good to just be polite and maintain your tonality and not let the other person corrupt you. And after a few interactions, probably they'll start liking you, because that's how a lot of relationships works, right? So that's very interesting thing to do. It is very good. It is actually fulfilling in the heart to be able to bring that kind of change in a human being. And if anyone who has actually tried to put in the effort, they know how much it takes of you. And a lot of them are just and a lot of us are just unsuccessful in changing a person from the core, right? But if you can manage to do it to one person, that's good enough, right? And it's another very interesting verse of the Bible that I'm going to share with you. And with this, I will close. You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. So, Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. So, Jesus is saying that be as perfect as the heavenly Father, be as perfect as God. Now, this is very interesting, is because in the pursuit of the divine, you will find ways to develop yourself which will make your life less miserable. Right? Right. So, when you, if because if God, the general notion is God knows everything and He's everywhere. So, if we pursue the Heavenly Father who is above us in another dimension and in this dimension at the same time, who is omnipotent, if we pursue the highest God that governs our life, which is presumably good, right? Now, how can we say it's good? It is beneficial to you, to your family, to your friends, to the community. That's a good rule of thumb to see if what you're pursuing is good or not. So, in the pursuit of making our lives and others' life better, we'll be moving towards God. We'll becoming more and more of the person. Will be able to bring out the potential that has been lying dormant in ourselves, and there is so much in us that is it is so exciting to even think about it, like how far can we go, how far we can push ourselves as human beings, because we see people who come and go, right? They come and go, they do something that was previously thought to be impossible. So we don't know how far we can go until we subject ourselves to difficult things, because to do something good is very difficult, right? To do something bad is very easy. All right, guys, I hope you guys have a good week. I'll see you next time. All the best.